I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you in the situation, but you just have to let it play out. Cooperate with the investigation and watch how it plays out. That's but the speculation part. I mean, as I said, there's too much of a one-track mind on coaching the team to be able to engage in every piece of speculation that seems to be any and everywhere.
All right, welcome in. That was Jim Harbaugh. That was the coach of Michigan about an hour ago being asked about biting his tongue, how difficult that is when it comes down to responding to some of those allegations. That's what he had to say. We're here with a former Wolverine on this Monday, and that is Jim Scarcelli, who joins us. Scar, good to see you. What's going on?
Mental toughness. That's what's going on, man. Jim Harbaugh has been trained for this moment. It's all about, he's got to get those 140 players and those 30-some coaches and analysts, what all these guys are, and that whole Schembechler Hall just bunkered in on what matters. You got to get them in that submarine and get them focused on, go to school, come down and practice, and try not to look at all the noise. And that's the challenge. It's a true test of a leader. But I think we got the right guy to go through this. And Ward Manuel's challenge too now. I think both these guys, and we got the right two guys there. So mental toughness, stay focused on what you got to do, and we're going to get through this thing.
Yeah, I thought Harbaugh did a good job today. There were more questions about the investigation and what a coach should know, and than I thought that there would be thrown at the coach. I would at least a half dozen of those questions, and he never, even after he had to have the sports information director after a couple of those say, hey, this can be pretty short here. The media kept asking questions of Harbaugh there. And the one thing, he didn't get upset. He didn't fire back. He didn't get anybody, I'm tired of it. He smiled. He answered the questions about, as well as he could. He couldn't say very much. We all do that. But he kept getting asked, and he didn't get frustrated about it. And I think, for that is something. I've seen a lot of coaches that finally said, hey, I told you what I'm going to say. Let's move on. He didn't do any screaming and yelling like that. So for whatever that's worth, for everyone, it's the coach up there, just, addressing and answering questions for, 20 minutes today. And the majority of them were about the investigation, Scar. And, we are not just going to talk about the NCAA. You have your very popular, entertaining, and educational film review, and you're going to look at the Boilermakers, who Michigan plays on Saturday night after the bye week. You told me that you've got some 69 tape as well that you're going to put in. Looking forward to that. The Big Ten, Michigan was off, but all the other teams were out there playing. You got some thoughts on that, but we will start it's been a week, so it's not like nothing has been put out there, Scar. So from this last week, you gave some of your initial thoughts there about this and leadership and everything else. Anything else over the course of the week as things have been coming out about the NCAA and Michigan and the alleged signs that has been top of mind for you?
There's been so many different theories, and it changes daily. Who did what? First week, maybe I thought it was, Jim coming after the NCAA to want to pay players, and that's not it. I don't think the NCAA wanted any part of that information they got from that law firm. I don't think they were seeking it. That information came to them, how it got there. There's speculation that Ryan Day's brother's involved with that law firm. Is that true? I don't know. Hope, Stallion is a rogue guy, did his thing. I don't know. We don't know. But, there's a lot of things we don't know, Denny, what the enemy does in terms of, were they doing all these things? I've been a coach. I saw opponents that did things that were wrong, that were unethical. I told you I was at practice a couple of weeks ago, And I told you they got this big, huge, high blue tarp around the practice field. And I thought, okay, I didn't even think about it. Maybe, I didn't think about the purpose of it. It's they found people spying on them over this Stadium Boulevard, filming their practices. So they got to keep building higher and higher walls. It's no excuse for this. I'm just telling you what the enemy is doing. And when you keep facing these things, sometimes it's tough, and it's Urban Meyer comes out with that statement. I watched Michigan every day when he was the head. Well, what does that mean? You watched them? Were you one of the guys with a camera over there? So again, these are things that are out there, and Jim knows what the enemy's doing. We don't know all the little things they've caught or they're informed of, But what else do I have here? The big thing though I have on this thing is Denny, that Ward has got to fight for Jim. He's got to fight like heck for Jim, because this is a moment that we got to get through it. And I know as a coach, you want the AD to take care of a lot of this stuff that's out there. Try to keep it off your desk so that you can coach. And as the AD, you don't want stuff like this that Jim. You don't want that stuff on your desk. This kind of stuff from your coaches. So these guys got to be united and keep all the fray away. It's all about the players. I mean, the players. 90% of my concern is all about these players. 10% is on the coaches and the future of the program. But my whole thing is about these players right now, that they get a fair shake. They got a great season going, and that there's nothing that's going to sidetrack this great season that they have going.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to underscore. From the beginning, there was a little bit of talk nationally, that Michigan could be penalized this season. That does not seem like it's going to be the case. That's very important, so people shouldn't lose sight of that. And we're still not. We don't really know. This could be. These could be some. If there is going to be penalties, minor penalties, and there still could be some things like this. There's no reason to speculate on what the if it was bad. It could be. There's plenty of people doing that, so we don't know. I did think that it was the NFL insiders yesterday coming out and saying that there was this safe harbor rule, which I found was somewhat interesting, saying that essentially that if Jim Harbaugh was just looking to jump, if he didn't like what if Michigan, whatever, after the season, he's just like, I'm out of here, I'm done dealing with the NCAA. And they cited Jim Tressel having to sit out 6 games or whatever. I started thinking about that overnight. That seems like it would be positive for Michigan in terms of keeping Jim Harbaugh, because what you would think, what head coach or what owner would want to hire a coach that would have to sit out maybe 6 games? None of them. But then I thought, this is going to play out over a year. Is the NFL, is the NCAA and the NFL, are they really going to get in after the season if Jim Harbaugh, let's just say, did elect to leave? And then, an owner, is he going to have the specter of an NCAA suspension, going to happen with his coach? I know they said that I guess that's the essence of the rule, but I did find that a little bit interesting. Tyler asking the question, why was everyone asking Harbaugh what he can't say? Sheesh, talk about a waste of time. Well, Tyler, you got to put yourself in the shoes of a reporter that is there and what their objective is. There's a lot of, from week to week, you're looking, maybe you're writing a story. The Associated Press, Larry Lage, who I was standing next to, he wanted a quote about playing in a night game, late in the year. He's not going to use that quote until Friday leading up to the game. So he asked about a Friday night. And, others, there was a Khalil Mullings question. He's back practicing, but with the nation focusing in on, hey, is Harbaugh going to get asked about this? If you're standing there, Tyler, and, they came out and said, look, there's certain things they did. They usually sports information director doesn't say anything at the beginning of these news conferences. And this one he did remind everyone there that there are certain things that you can't talk about, and yet you still have to ask the questions. And by the way, that clip I played, Harbaugh did. That was a 30-second soundbite. He did. Without, saying they couldn't talk about it. He said he couldn't talk about the speculation, but yeah, you got where people were coming from. And my experience is there. And even though somebody says they can't talk about it, you not necessarily saying pepper them with questions, but you keep asking the questions because you don't know. Harbaugh could have lost his cool and said, I'm done with you. He didn't do that, but many coaches do get frustrated by the line of questions, and that ends up being something like, oh, hey, the coach couldn't, handle the scrutiny of the questions. Harbaugh handled them, and even though he was clear that he didn't like after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he was kind of throwing up his hands, but he didn't get upset. I think the answer to that question is it's not a waste of time. It was the number one thing. Like, you could make a case, Tyler, that every single question should have been just about the NCAA investigation, and they should have just shut it down, and people still should have been asking questions because that's what everyone wants to know. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're ready to move on. Everything else, there's nothing here. A lot of Michigan fans, they don't want to know. They don't want to hear anything. Just positivity and all that. That's not the job of the people that are out there. And so, it served its purpose today. No, he didn't really say a whole lot. But those questions,
Danny, the way Jim handled it, though, Jim handled it like a pro he's been in that situation hundreds of times. He's not getting rattled. He sounded exactly how I would want him to sound. We talked about it and moving on, and he's focused on his team. And, Danny, I want to say something, and just hear me out here. When you hire Jim Harbaugh, when you hire Juwan Howard, you're getting guys who are great athletes, but you know what? They're competitive guys, competitive fighters on the court, fighter at the 50-yard line. And you know what else? They'll fight you in the parking lot after if they need be. And that's what they are. And I want to play with those kind of guys. I'll tell you right now, I want to play with those kind of guys. Juwan had his slip. Guess what? We support him. We fight for him. He's our guy. We're going to fight for him because he's a Michigan guy. And this is going on with Jim right now. And you know what? We got to fight for him. We got to support him. Michigan's got to get behind him. The hell with everybody else. We're going to get through it. And, but Danny, this is out there. I don't know what's out there. Who is Jim Stapleton? I've heard that name. We heard what, we heard what John Bacon had to say. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out here. He's a U of M grad. I guess he's a former athlete, a lawyer. He was an EMU regent, and he's active with the M Club, done some good things. I talked to some, I heard some good things, in his role. I guess he was an advocate for Ron English back in the day to be the head coach at Michigan. He's on the NCAA infraction committee, and apparently he doesn't like Harbaugh, according to John Bacon. So, and then it's just interesting, this contract. We had this contract out there, and then the timing of this stuff. And, I just wanted to see if I can get more information on what his role is. How is a guy who's tied into the university, has a big role with the university, also on this infraction committee. And I really want to, and the guy hangs out with Ward Manuel. Okay. It was reported he had dinner with him at a restaurant in Ann Arbor. And, I don't know. Just if some of our listeners can give us some information on more about what this guy's role is, I would really like to know it.
Well, he also has a role with the Minnesota Vikings, who Jim Harbaugh, got close to, leaving for last year. And there's some that thought that he put a monkey wrench in that. He is somebody in Stapleton, according to some of the people that I talk with. If you go and look at the athletic director and where Ward Manuel sits during the games, he's sitting right in the same box as Stapleton. So, some say, oh, he doesn't, he's, into politics and, this, there's a lot of different people that are trying to exert, their opinions and their will in something. Not everybody, you like to have everybody on the same page, but, you got to have the president and the athletic director of the regents and the head coach. They all need to be rolling in the right same direction. And if you get somebody that wants to, put a monkey wrench into it, like Stapleton, who did put out a statement, but he didn't deny what Bacon had to say, that he was behind all of this, which makes me seem like he is involved in it. So, those are sort of the things you have to deal with when you have
Well, that's the thing. See, Denny, that's what I talked about. I was a head football coach and I was an athletic director, and there's certain things the athletic director has to try to fight for, and so the coach can coach. Now, listen, things happen with Michigan's football program, ain't no question. But I just want to know what this guy's role is, and he's hanging out with Ward. But then Ward's got a tough job. He's got to hear all kinds of different factions out there and deal with a lot. He's got to be the politician. But I'm going to say this right now. I got faith in Ward Manuel, and I got faith in Jim Harbaugh. We're going to get through this. Those are Michigan football players, and we got the right guys. We're going to get through this thing.
Let's handle a couple questions. Account 22. This was something, I don't know if it was last night. I read some of these bylaws this morning, and this is what account 22 is referring to. He is saying that the investigating firm allegations, he's saying that Stallions didn't break a rule. He found a loophole. And if you do, read that, which, I don't know exactly, what pages these were torn from that we're putting out there, but it did look like that. It did. And that was something that from the outset, that it looked like to me that, Michigan combed through the rule book, and while they couldn't technically be in person, so they sent somebody else thinking like, hey, we have found a way around this to, get some of advanced scouting, by going around the rule, which I always thought was smart. Now, will the NCAA interpret it like that? I don't know. I mean, they're the judge and the jury, but I would say maybe that is something to look at. This is also something over the last 24 or 48 hours, Marcus is bringing to the table about Michigan rescinding a contract offer. And the word rescinded is not like, so there was a contract, but it rescinded, tabled, put on hold with what is going on here. I think that is more accurate. Rescind makes it sound like it's not going to be put back out there, which, is not, you start parsing words. But in this case, I think it's important to parse that word, because that's not the,
it could be for effect too, just like you're saying, Denny, that, let's pull this thing back or just set it back, and we'll negotiate it and talk more about it when the time, it kind of cools things off a little bit. It could be a good political move from the leadership, and how you word it.
All right. John is ready to move on. He is tired of all of this. There's nothing more to talk about. Stallion screwed up and did things all by himself. Well, that's going to be the hope, John. And I get having fatigue on a story. I think that we're getting pretty close to that. I'm like, as much as you say that and you grind out, it's like, oh, yeah, let's talk about Purdue. Like, okay, are people more interested in, talking about Purdue, who's Michigan's, 30 some odd point favorite, or are they still with, all of these different things that are being thrown out there, and people, the rivals attacking Michigan all the time, there's still, some things there that, people are interested in. But I understand, what you're saying. You can definitely get fatigue, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people that are.
Denny, it's interesting because we are all so concerned about it. Michigan people, college football fans are, we're into it. We want to focus on it. And I just got to keep getting back to Jim and those 140 players and those coaches. They got to just, find a way to block it all out, man. Stuff is irrelevant to beating Purdue.
Yeah, and Richard, it sounds like Richard has already listened to the news conference from Jim Harbaugh, which was earlier today. It was the first question to Harbaugh if his contract was rescinded, and he, I'm trying to think of the exact words. He said he didn't think that was accurate, the way that was put out there. So, there you go. when it comes down to that. All right, Scar, you ready to watch a little bit of the, sometimes people call them the spoiler makers. We don't want to be calling them that this week, but the Purdue Boilermakers?
He's a good coach. He's been a defensive guy. That's really his focus. He was the coordinator at Missouri. He did a good job and obviously did a great job at Illinois as their coordinator. So here's their first play. We're just going to look at some things. This is against the Buckeyes. 45. This kid is, he was a walk-on. He's a good back, though. He just finds a way to make things happen. Out Z. What do I mean by that here? Though this is outside zone. So they're running out and they block it well against the Buckeyes. First play of the game, and they pick up a little slanting tackle down here and block it and execute it. So, they got guys that can block it. They were totally outmanned against the Buckeyes, but outside zone, they ran it well there. And this kid's a good back. This is a formation, Denny, we haven't seen all year. We haven't seen two backs in the backfield like this, and they run a little counter here, and they execute it well against the Buckeyes. We got to be ready for two backs in the backfield, and they're blocking things a little different here. It's kind of like they go to the next guy here on this counter, and is it to influence this guy? And they end up kicking out the whole thing. They block it down, but they block it well. And they fake a little. Look at the quarterback's backfield action. Anyway, this is stuff we have not seen this play. And these are the things, and you got to take a look at the split. These are little things you got to look at as a defensive football player. So if I'm playing on the edge over here to the defense's right, if I'm playing like over in here, I see this tight alignment by this tight end. There's probably less likelihood they're running the ball this way, and a good chance he might be coming back here to trap or do something like that. So you got to always try to feel, even though he's on the other side of the line from you, you're looking way over here. Sometimes you can communicate that with your opposite edge player. But anyway, these are little things you're looking at. Two backs, quarterback fakes it, and now he comes back here. Counter, they execute it. Two backs. We'll have to be ready for that. Now here they are on defense. And this guy's an aggressive defensive coach. He's got 5 up here. He's playing man. There's 3-1 formation here. I mean, if you're going to play man against the Buckeyes, sometimes man free, no safety help, against Marvin Harrison, you got to believe he's going to do it against us. So a lot of man coverage. He will try to bring pressure. He's bringing 5 here. The Buckeyes block it. But obviously, we got to be ready for heavy dose of man coverage.
Bring it on.
Harrison. Everything's Harrison.
Yeah, he had a good game.
The downside of that, though, Denny, of throwing so much to Harrison, and I think that's one of the reasons they got picked off. That quarterback looks for him so much. You can really, if you can gear your defense and try to give help at times, sneak it in there, he might throw one to you, which I think he did against the Badgers. Anyway, here's a 3-1 formation with the tight end on the backside. Here's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. He's bringing 7 guys. So again, this coach does not. He will bring 7 man free, no help. So we're going to see a good dose of that. A lot of tight end motion. Danny, a lot of teams will do a lot of tight end motion to get a feel for it because so much is predicated on tight ends or where the back is. And number 1 is the quarterback. He's an athletic kid. He's got a good arm. He's probably like the kid from Minnesota. Tall kid, played at Texas, transferred, but he's a pretty good player. So he's an athletic kid. What they run on offense is nothing different than like a Maryland and the people we've seen. Now here, Denny, we got the Buckeyes running counter against their defense. So you're gonna look at, okay, what did they do? How did they defend counter? This is a form of counter. They're pulling the backside guard and tackle, and they're wrong arming it here. They're making it bounce, and they're making it bounce to nothing. So this is really not a coordinated defense all that well, because you see the kid at the top. He's bouncing this thing. And normally you'll have a linebacker here if you're going to bounce it to him, but he's bouncing it out to nothing. So not very coordinated. So we'll have to be prepared for that type of technique. Wrong arming, making it bounce. They're looking at this film. Again, more aggressiveness. Here's 1st and 10. He's bringing 6 guys, stunning, and leaving guys by themselves. So our receivers got to make plays. They'll have a lot of opportunities. Roman Wilson. Again, this is you know what ends up happening, Denny. Sometimes I face this as a coach and as a player. Sometimes you end up taking a peek at the team, you might play down the road. Now, obviously, our defense won't see this play, but because here's the Buckeyes on offense. But as coaches, sometimes you look at that. Here's the Buckeyes on offense on the goal line, and now we have, and they just run the ball with this 33. I think I missed a play here, Denny. I think I missed
one you wanted to set up. All right.
There's a play before that. Because what I see here, though, this is it. Now, when the Buckeyes brought in 33, this is their backup. All they do is run the ball with him. And they hammer. Purdue doesn't adjust very well, I don't think. You got 2 guys here at the line of scrimmage, and they got 4 blockers just crushing this down here. But, we got number 7 we've done stuff like this with. We did it one time. You remember they snapped the ball right to Donovan?
Yeah.
This is something that we may want to do because the Buckeyes hammered them with it. They brought a running quarterback in there, maybe Orgy, maybe Donovan Edwards, that kind of stuff are things you take a peek at. Okay, it worked against the Buckeyes had success with it. And here they are again with 33. And the reason I say this is because the Boilers really, they adjust better this time, but not very good.
So you're saying maybe a little wildcat from Michigan?
Possibly, because if you're looking at a team on how they adjust and they don't adjust very well, you're like, you know what? We got that same kind of package in with Donovan, or maybe we dust off the orgy stuff, possibly. Here's counter Trey. And look at these, again, we don't play these guys for about a month or so, but you look at these stances here, how far these guys are back off the ball. They're not running the football over here. These are things you see. They're going to probably pull this way. These guys are tight on the ball. They're blocking down. Anyway, they're just little tells that you see. And let's see how the Boilers defend this. Counter Trey. So now they're trying to squeeze it. The guy, he didn't wrong arm it. This kid down here. Okay, he's not splattering it this time. He's just squeezing it. So, and the Buckeyes hammer him good. So that's a play with that formation. You say, okay, maybe we can run it. You follow me, Danny? You're looking at what other people did. Again, he might not. He's going to obviously adjust differently at different times. Again,
I'm wondering if you watch all of OSU's tape and how often they're pulling those 2 guys when they have a loose formation like that. That could be a total tell.
Yeah, you try to read split. That's what great coaches do, man. But obviously, guys will pump fake you. Teams will mess with splits. They'll mess with stances to try to throw you a curveball. Offensive linemen, they're not dumb, And here's number 1. We got to deal with. I mean, they beat the heck out of Illinois, man. This team is capable of doing anything, Denny. So, listen, man, I wanted to, we're all caught up in this, what's going on, And I said, you know what, man, let's just change the narrative. Let's look at some old 1969 Michigan, Ohio State. Let's just clear our minds about probably the biggest game in Michigan football history in the last 60 years or so. Here's tight end delay against the 1969 Michigan defense. There's one of the Buckeyes' only scores. Anyway, wasn't a lot of scoring in that game. Different offenses. But here's Woody now going for 2.
So week before. Oh no, right here. Okay.
Yeah. So no, this is the game. This is the game we win, Danny. This is the game that Michigan wins. Okay. This is Bo Schembechler's first game against the Buckeyes. This set the program in motion, gave us momentum. But this is straight T. And it was so common back then. I mean, you see Penn State running straight T. There's a few teams that run it. In fact, Indiana crushed Penn State straight T. I don't know if you took a peek at what they did, because Tom Allen's a smart coach. I see so many of these guys that don't know how to defend it. But Michigan's in a split 6 here. We got a 6-man front. We really don't run that kind of front, but we get it stopped. This guy here, Cecil Pryor. Bo used to talk about him all the time. 55. You ever heard that name, Denny?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great player. And we get him stopped. How about Woody Hayes? How'd you like to look at this guy across the field, coach against that guy?
I remember the first time that I went to Ohio State that the fans, there are so many fans that dress like Woody Hayes. Short, they got that hat, they got those ties. I mean, it's everywhere. That's what
he was something, boy. Woody, what's that story? Woody said I guess he ran out of gas, he'd rather push the car back to Ohio than pay Michigan taxes.
That is the story. He said that's a true story.
Anyway, this guy down here, Billy Harris. I know Billy Harris. He ended up, he was a great player at Michigan, and he ended up coaching at Michigan. He's coached all over. Real good guy, good coach. He went to the school I taught at, Clintondale. But I don't know if people know it. He catches this pass here. He was the guy that recruited Tom Brady. Did you know that?
William Harris? Yeah.
Coach Harris. Yeah, this guy that catches this pass. He's the guy that recruited Tom Brady. So he was the position coach, the assistant coach. And then you got Reggie McKenzie down here. He's not playing much in this game, but, he blocked for OJ and those guys.
Electric Company.
I just love this old offensive stuff. Here's Jim Mandich, the tight end. He was a player on that undefeated Miami Dolphin team.
Had a big game.
Yeah, he had a nice catch there, and he was a proud Wolverine, man. Now we get into some of these formations I like. Here we got eye backs, double tight. Buckeyes are in they're in a 3-4 defense. That was so common back then. And we're running like a sprint draw here. We're kind of looking like a pass, but it ends up blocking very similar to power. We pull the near side guard, kick out, and that's Billy Taylor. You heard that name, right?
Touchdown, Billy Taylor.
Yeah.
Billy Taylor.
Bo used to talk about him all the time.
Scored a touchdown. He's still around.
All right, here we go. We get straight T. Now, Denny, remember I always talk about why it's so important for your defense to see what the opponent is going to run so it helps your defense. Bo said he put a lot of this stuff in to help his defense. Now, what was Ohio State running on the goal line? They were running straight T, right? Remember, I just showed you a couple plays earlier when they had the ball. Well, we're running straight T. And we run an isolation play here. We lead that halfback up through in there, and we get it down to the 6-inch line. But look at the block here. We're leading this halfback right through there, and we're giving it to the fullback here. We just hammering them. Straight T. I love the straight T. It's one of all the offenses I've coached against. If you run that stuff right, it can be a real problem.
Good video there. Garvey Craw, fullback.
Yeah, here we go with the same play. They run the exact same play now. Block it the same way, and we get in. So straight T football, love it. 1969. Look at this defense they're playing, Denny. This is what we call base right now. We run this exact same defense right now. Okay? Nothing's changed. And we're slanting to our left here. Watch them slant to the left. And I think the Buckeyes screw up the blocking here. They don't really get it blocked right. I think these two guards are blocking. These two guys are blocking the same deal, but that's a good stop by Michigan. Anyway, it's the same kind of stuff we run now. I talk about having a defense coordinated. We're all slanting to the left there. You see them?
Yeah.
Our front. Same stuff we do now. Nothing different. Barry Pearson, this was a big play in this game. I think he's out of St. Ignace up in the UP.
Correct.
And this was a huge play. Yeah, all the scoring was in the first half.
24-12.
Here we go straight T again. Again, we get after this long run, we get near the goal line. And Denny, nothing's changed. Here it is 54 years ago. It's the same thing, man. You got to have a quarterback that can run. And look here, mesh point. We keep talking about, I talk about mesh point all the time. So the defense has to honor that, right? Is he giving it? Is he pulling it? Nothing's changed. He pulls it out, and now the quarterback keeps it. We ran that play a couple times earlier. We gave the ball to we faked it to the halfback leg. We gave it to the fullback. Now we're faking it to the fullback, and the quarterback's just following. Touchdown. You know, all that mesh point stuff. It gives you problems.
Moorhead gives it to Crowley. He keeps it. Gets it in there. So Ufer.
So 21-12. We're in the second quarter. Again, nothing's changed. You got to have a quarterback that can run. Got to have quarterback that can run. Look here. We fake the same thing, fake it to the fullback, and now we're gonna block it a little differently. We got stuff very similar to this. Okay, now we're gonna have this halfback try to reach this defensive end instead of kicking him out or lead through. So he's going to try to reach him, and the quarterback is going to pull this thing out. See, he's now later in the 70s, they started reading this stuff. Quarterbacks started to read, you know, now I think it's all predetermined in 1969, but now he's just keeping it and he's off and running. So again, the same stuff. Read the mesh point, block it a little different, try to create confusion. And same kind of play, only with a different formation. Now we just put this kid in motion, and it ends up being like the straight T, only we come from here, and on the snap of the ball, where is he? He's right where he'd be in a straight T, right, Danny? This is, you know what I mean?
I see it.
So it's like the same thing, only a different formation, and then you put him in motion, but it ends up being the same thing. And same thing with the mesh point, and the quarterback kept it. Same play we just ran. And we're putting him in conflict with the blocking scheme. We're putting him in conflict. So instead of him getting it, now he's logging again, reaching. The mesh point screws up the defense. They don't know if it's going to the back. So they got to honor the fullback, right? Same stuff we're doing now. Got to honor the fullback. Quarterback keeps it. A lot like our RPO stuff. Same QB out of the same stuff now, only out of the eye backs. So we run the same play, only we're throwing different formations at them. Just a little different look for the defense, but it's the same darn thing. Quarterback's keeping it. Here's eye backs, a couple more plays. Got that sprint draw, but it's looking like, you know, it's got a lot of similarities to the RPO stuff. Okay. He's putting the ball into the gut of a back. You know, now these guys are reading somebody. These quarterbacks are reading a linebacker as to whether he should pull it out or keep it on a pass. Back then it was predetermined, I think. But he pulls it out, throws the football. Is that Billy Harris again? Can't tell. Who is that? Somebody. That's Mandich. Anyway, that's the way they win at halftime, Denny, and that's the way the score of the game finished. But that game was the, that set the momentum, man. Momentum for Michigan's program, 1969. You know, it really got Bo going on recruiting, and then it just carried over, man. You know, you win that first game, and Bo always said that was his most important victory. And then now you're rolling. You got to win over the Buckeyes. Now you can recruit. You got the fan base fired up. I just thought it was time to clear our mind of all this BS. And remember that we're Michigan. We've done some great things, and we're going to get through this. We've gotten through a lot of other mess, and we're going to get through it because we got great leadership.
Yeah, well, Scar, if you're a Michigan football fan, you don't go very long without somebody referencing 1969. And yeah, Bo liked to, of course, talk about that game. And it was Hayes after the game. What he came up to him and said, "Bo, you'll never win a bigger game." And then Bo said he was right or something. So Bo was close to that. I love talking about that game. And that did set the tone. It was also that first year that Michigan lost to Michigan State, and Bo said, "It's not going to let that happen very much anymore." He started taking that one a little bit more serious or whatever. He just wasn't going to, that wasn't going to happen. And they didn't beat him very much anymore, after that.
Danny, I was on the phone. I haven't shook his hand, but we have a mutual friend, John Arbesnik knows Gordon Bell, great player, played in the 70s. He was telling me, he was out of practice the Ohio State week, and he sees, looking up in the houses right across from our practice field on State Street, he sees what looks like some guys on a tripod filming us. He calls Bo over. He says, "Coach, look over my shoulder," and he tells him what window to look in. And sure enough, Bo called the police. They went in there. There was Buckeyes with a tripod. Woody Hayes sent them there to film our practice. So, I'm just putting it into perspective. You know what I mean? Did anything happen there? I don't know. But I just heard that story this past week about, and I never even realized, you'd think I would have known this, because I talked about how when we played Michigan State, we used to practice at the stadium. Okay, for all these years, I just thought it was Bo's way of saying, this game really matters. It's special. We're going to go up to the – no. You know why we practiced there? Because he never trusted Michigan State, and because he had reasons to believe they were scouting us and watching our practices. So that's why we practiced at the stadium. And I never knew it, and I just found it out. I've been away from Michigan for so long. I just found that out just this past week.
Well, I've heard of students that had houses right across from the practice field, and that they would go over there and say something to them if they were looking out their own window. And then it wasn't just, they redid the bridge that overlooked the practice field, I don't know, within the last 10 years, or maybe it was longer than that. But as recently as, 3 years ago, you could walk over that bridge and you could look down there, and you could, people would say, "Hey, watch practice." And you'd say, "Hey, what did you see?" Well, there would be people that stopped there. Michigan would go up there. But to your point there, you go up in that bridge now, Michigan has erected a curtain where you can't see that practice field anymore. Because, if you're going to go through some of your game prep down there, it doesn't take much. Somebody have a little look out and, filming what you're doing for sure.
So anyway, Purdue is a game. We just, it's a night game, and we've got I'm glad we got them after the bye week. We got some guys rested, got a little time off, got healthy, got healed up. And, but we probably had to have some good physical practices in there somewhere. If you guys like me reviewing old time film, let me know, and put some years you want to see or some stuff you want to see. And I'll be glad to mess with some of that, maybe in the off season, not so much now during the season.
Yeah, in the off season, I'll put a request in. I want to see one of those that Iowa game where you were in Scar and you were going after and taking Chuck Long to the turf or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was they had our number my last 2 years we played them. They were good.
We're going to talk about some of the games that you saw over the weekend. I just want to tell everyone, you want to know about these contract situations, everything, how this played out the last 24, 48 hours. If you're on the Maize and Blue Review 10 days ago, you would have seen that contract was tabled, stuff like that. You get this information accurate, sometimes, days, in this case, 10 days or a week before it happened. So that's just one of many reasons you should join the Maize and Blue Review today. The biggest reason is that you're a Michigan fan and you find like fans on there discussing Michigan day and night, recruiting, transfer portal, football, basketball. It's all there. Go to michigan.rivals.com. Give us a chance. You know what? I think you're going to like it more than anybody else and what they got going on. So we look forward to that. Also want to thank Quick Cut the Scar of the Telestrator, brought to you by Quick Cut Video and Analytics for their work. We appreciate that as well. Michigan on the bye. I took the Ohio State Wisconsin game in. How about you, Scar, on Saturday night? Did you watch any of that one?
Yeah, it was good for what we saw from Ohio State. I mean, the run. Henderson's good.
Yes.
That's a real good running back. He's a tough, fast, elusive kid. And he's been banged up. But if we got to deal with him, he's something. But their offensive line is losing Kevin Wilson. I said it before, Denny. That guy was one of the greatest offensive line coaches. Their offensive line is average. It's not Ohio State like we saw with Urban and some of those teams. Okay, and now the quarterback, I thought he was getting better and getting more comfortable, but he showed some real weaknesses. I think because they're so focused offensively on trying to get the ball to Harrison, there can be a problem with that because defensively, I think they maybe try to force it sometimes to him. Like I said, maybe you work your scheme to hide some help you're going to give, make it appear like you got a guy out there with no help, and bait him into throwing. And maybe you could, because I think that was one of the interceptions they were trying to force it into Harrison. But Ohio State is, they're good on defense, but it's a winnable game, and I liked what I saw. Big time liked what I saw, and when I say that, I mean that we can beat them. So Penn State, Indiana, hey, they just come off a big game. Indiana's a capable team. He's a good coach, and Penn State slopped around. Indiana hung around. God, I was hoping they could have pulled that thing off, but they didn't get it done. But Penn State showed you they're an average team, but we're going to see a different team mentally. There'll be a different vibe when the Wolverines roll into Happy Valley. So I'm not going to put a ton of stock in that Penn State Indiana performance.
I'll put some stock. That's a couple times now I've watched Penn State. I watched them play against Illinois, and Drew Aller didn't look really good in that game. And I watched him on Saturday pretty close, watching that game from start to finish. He is a dink and dunk, check down, take what the defense gives you. He can't now. He ended up throwing a bomb at the end of the game, but he can't complete a pass over 15 yards. And it doesn't seem like he's on the same page with his receivers. I mean, he looks like if this was like game one, you'd say, okay, you got some time. This is, you're more than halfway through the season. He's a nickel and dimer. That's what he is. He's a check down Charlie. That's, if you're expecting, him to start airing it out and putting some passes down the field and getting some chunk plays and trying to get his yard per pass up, that's just not it. He doesn't have it. He looks good out there, stands big kid, throws the ball well, but he can't complete anything. Just doesn't have it in it. Doesn't look like it's a skill set. Maybe he can get better at that. Like you're saying, to be a different story when Michigan comes in there. But, my biggest takeaway of Saturday is, Aller's a nickel dime quarterback. And, we've seen that at different times with Michigan. Shea Patterson couldn't throw the ball down the field. And in the end, that hurt Michigan. He couldn't accurately throw the football from the pocket down the field. And when you can't do something like that, other teams will stack up on you and force you to do it. And when you can't do it, ends up hurting you. That's what I see from Aller there. And Ohio State, it's always going to be a tough game there. But, Michigan, usually, the last 20 years, you say, why is Michigan losing? A lot of people say, it's the safety play. It's the defensive tackle play. It was the quarterback play. Funny that it ended up not being like that 3 years ago because Stroud was pretty good, but and Michigan finally got over on that. But clearly the way McCarthy's playing and the way McCord, you feel pretty good about that and where the game's being played. So you feel better if you're a Michigan fan about both the Penn State game and the Ohio State game, knowing those will be different games. But I think people are feeling pretty good about Michigan's chances in those games.
Yeah, Penn State's run game is pretty good. I thought they should have ran it more against Ohio State. They run some good stuff, and it's their best offensive line they've had. And that's going to be it. We got to really buckle up and take care of things there. And Maryland has got great skill players. Their skill players are as good as anybody. the quarterback, the big running back. Oh, he's tough, man. But they got to play Penn State. That's good for us. Okay, now we got to play Maryland before the Buckeyes, but this is a good deal for us that Penn State has to get ready to play a good Maryland team. Maryland can beat Penn State. They've got them in Maryland. So, but and Maryland has real good skill. Again, that quarterback is capable of doing, being really, really good. So Maryland will have better lines of scrimmage. We'll be better in the front seven, but their skill players are as good as anybody's.
Good stuff. Scar, we have talked 100% about Michigan tonight at Ford Field. There's a pretty big game, Monday Night Football. Lions taking on the Raiders. And, if you think about it, now Philadelphia won, they've got one loss, but, and Seattle has two losses, but, the Lions can get up there and be the 3 seed. They can go on a run here. What do you think about tonight's game?
Yeah, they got some guys banged up, but this Brad Holmes is good, man. This guy, this general manager he's got an eye for talent, and we got the right coach. I think they're a great team. They've got good players, and
great team.
He's got backups. That's what it's just like college. You got to have who's number 2, man. Who's next man up, and that's you got a guy that's brought in some pretty good guys in there that step in. The place will be nuts. I got some friends going. And when's the last time we had a Monday night game in Detroit that actually mattered? I mean, you got to go back a long time, man. But it's great for Detroit. The place will be rocking. And Danny, just a quick point. One of the greatest coaches in the country right now, one of the last, I'm going to say this, he's the last guy I would want to defend regardless of talent. A guy I'm thoroughly impressed with is the Kansas coach. Offensively, Denny, this guy is a headache. Okay, when I look at I want people to take a look at Kansas when they're playing and ask yourself, how would you line up and adjust to all the stuff he does? And the guy's brilliant. You're going to see. I used to think the USC guy, right? What's his name? I thought he was this guy at Kansas is sharp. I mean, we do good things too. And you're going to see people doing some of this stuff that the guy at Kansas is doing, moving linemen around and having linemen out, in space and then shifting them back in. And you got to think about your adjust. So those are the things that really impressed me as an old defensive coach.
So you don't want the Spartans to get Lance Leipold?
Hell no. I want them to pay him, and I want them to pay the Duke coach. You keep the Duke coach right where he is. You keep that Kansas coach right where he is, and let them go get one of them hotshot coordinators somewhere. Don't be taking out those guys. And another guy I think is real good is the guy at Tulane. I'm surprised no one hasn't paid him. All that guy has done is win.
Yeah, his name's on a lot of teams' radars.
All that guy does is win, and I don't know. Nobody wants to give him a job, but the guy's, he's been steadily consistent there. And I continue to say one of the best coaches around is over there at Eastern Michigan. To take the dysfunction that program was when he took it over, and now they're a reputable, MAC football team. That's a real good coach, that Creighton over at EMU.
Well, how about win the MAC first before you go ahead and
I know.
Put him somewhere. I like him myself. I'm glad that I hope he stays at Eastern Michigan. But he could move up, but in maybe a group of 5, a better conference. But I don't think he's going to get any major power. I don't think Michigan State fans. I don't think Michigan State would that would be too big of a job.
Yeah, well, Danny, see, that's the problem. That's why one of the greatest hires ever in the history of the Big Ten Conference was when that guy who was the AD at Ohio State said, you know what? Let me go hire this guy over here at Youngstown State. Who was that? A flashy hire to go hire Jim Tressel from Youngstown State? All that guy did was win at Youngstown State, and then all he did was win in Columbus. So he won
a lot more. He won a lot more than Chris Creighton at Eastern.
Well, Chris Creighton he inherited a dysfunctional bottom of the barrel, as low as it goes program. Youngstown State was, I don't know, Division II, whatever the heck they were. and the Buckeyes say, we want to get this guy. That's like Stanford hiring Harbaugh from San Diego. Sometimes that flashy hire guy, whatever the heck that means, ain't always the best guy.
It was like Canham hiring that German butcher.
Well, that's a proven coach, man. That was Bo Wan. He took, but they had something going pretty regularly at Miami. But yeah, that's what you want. You want a guy who's a proven leader. Now, I hope account 22, man. Let's get this thing done. I think Ward is going to get it done. Him and Jim are going to get it done. And Michigan people got to stay united. And like I said, you hire Jim Harbaugh, you hire Juwan Howard, you get competitors, okay? And they slipped, and we got to still support them. That's what you get when you hire fighting, competitive guys. And those are the kind of guys.
I don't know the timing on it, and I hear what you're saying, Scar. Sorry to interrupt you there, but if at any point over the next 2 weeks that Michigan comes out and signs Jim Harbaugh to an extension, that would be a reason for a party for the Maize and Blue. Like they beat Ohio State, beat Penn State. Like that would be a great celebration. That would be
and everybody else would be upset. And then we get the T-shirts, right, Denny? Everybody, what is it? What is the word they use?
This one.
Michigan versus everybody. There it is, man. Get me one of those, big dog. That's what we want. That's when you know you're on top, Denny, is when everybody is out to get you, man. That's when you know you are the top dog. When they are all talking about you, all the off season, they're all working on your stuff, man. They're working on your plays. How do we stop Michigan, man? How do we move the ball against that defense? Halloween, baby.
You got it right. Yeah, enjoy it, Scar, and we'll see you after the game on Saturday night.
All right, Danny, go Blue.
There he is.